Part 2 Donde Viva la Bestia, Where the Beast Lives. Chapter 18 Outside the bus window, Barrios rushes by in a blur. The restaurant Mommy and I always rode to with Petina and Pulga. The church where Mommy and Papi got married. The clinic Mommy ran to where the doctor uttered that horrible truth I already know. That truth that fluttered in my stomach. That started the day I lifted my head and fixed my gaze on the horizon, even though Mommy had warned me so many times not to. You have to walk with your head down, Pequeña. Don't look around, she told me. Ever since my breast started to develop and my hips started to fill out and be more aware of everything and everyone, she never explained how it was possible to be more aware of everything, take notice of everything, while keeping my gaze down. I listened to her. I always listened to Mommy. I didn't want to make things more difficult for her after Papi left. When she had to take the job housekeeping at the resort where Tia waitressed. But that day, when my neck ached from being curved downward all the time, from the vision of my feet in dust and rocks, that day I look up and I let the sun kiss my face, and I dreamed of a future away from here. It was the wrong moment for dreams, but it was as if I were destined, and if some invisible hand would have forced my face up, even if I hadn't, at the precise moment, thought to lift it. There he was, leaning on the counter of Don Felicio's store, with a few other guys, drinking soda, laughing, smoking a cigarette. He blew out a long puff of smoke from a cigarette. At the same exact moment I looked up, and his gaze caught mine through the haze. I heard my mother's voice in that moment. Pequeña. And I looked down immediately. I quickened my pace, but the whoops from his friends and the sound of his feet came toward me anyway. Hey, he called. I walked faster. Come on, don't make me look like an asshole in front of my friends. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. Hey, he said again. And then he was right behind me. Come on, slow down. Then next to me, hey, I said slow down. He grabbed my wrist, squeezed it tight, pulled me to a stop. I'll walk with you. This is what happens when you're scared. Your heart takes over your whole body. It thunders in your chest, beating so rapidly that you feel it in your throat and ears and eyes and head. You hear it and feel it, on the verge of explosion. And then it does. It explodes. You see a splattering. You would... You wonder how you can still be alive when your heart has exploded. You wonder how you can speak. What's your name? He said, his voice and full of danger. Maria, I lied. He laughed. Nah, that's not right. Nah, that's not right. Your name is Bonita. He nodded and looked me up and down. Yes, Bonita, he replied. Then reached up and touched my chin, lifted my face to his. This is what danger looks like. A smile set in a long face, revealing the slight overlapping of two front teeth, hair that covers his eyes, but not completely. So you still see a strange kind of vacancy in them, and a smile that is quickly replaced with a sneer. Don't get lost on me, he said, shaking a finger. It'll be okay for you. He stopped. He laughed, and I kept on. After that he found me wherever I went. He didn't care that I wasn't interested. I think he actually liked it at first, the idea of making me do something, of making me love him. He bought me gifts and insisted I take them. He told me he loved me, even as he grabbed my face with his dirty hands, dug his fingers into my cheeks, and forced me to look at him. He told me his name was Ray, and I was his Bonita. He was a king, and I was his pretty girl. I was his. That's what he said, and one night, while Mommy slept on the living room couch, the way she did sometimes when she came home too exhausted from work, he made sure I understood what that meant. Shh, he said as I climbed in through the bedroom window. I just showered. I just put on my nightgown. He'd be he'd been out there for who knows how long watching me. Shh, as he put his finger up to my lips and laughed at the look on my face. That's how I froze. I could have screamed, but my mother would have come running into that room where Ray stood, staring at me with vacant eyes. My mother is in the other room, I said. It doesn't matter, he said. Go ahead, invite her too. He laughed and I panicked, thinking Mommy would come in, not knowing what she was walking into. So when he came toward me and held me by the back of the hair, kissing me and leading me to the bed, I didn't fight. Anything to keep him quiet. Anything to keep Mommy away. He told me not to make a sound, not to dare make a sound, or he'd kill me. And as soon as Mommy made it into my room, he'd kill her too. And just in case I doubted him, he showed me the gun he carried in his waistband. Ray whispered in my ear, but I shut my eyes tight, silently screaming for help, as he pressed himself against me, as his hands slid up my legs, under my nightgown. I lay still, very still, and I was so quiet I hardly breathed, and for a little while I died. Then, this is what dying is like. You stare at the ceiling and watch it bend, like the very air in your room can't be contained, and is pressing against it. You watch cracks appear and the ceiling break open to a black, black sky and a gleaming moon, and you rise. You float up to the ceiling, through the roof, and into the night. That's when I saw her again, La Bruja, the horrible angel from the river, from my childhood who saved me. I've forgotten about her after so many years, forgotten how she'd come to me in the water, and how, when I told Mommy and Papi of her, they said I just hit my head, and I was seeing things. Now here she was again, with long silver hair and glimmering eyes, suspended there, waiting for me. I looked back toward the earth, toward my house, that from here, that from there, looked small and insignificant. And for a moment I saw us all, Mommy on the couch, curled up so small, me on the bed under Ray. La Bruja sunk down to my house, pulling me with her like a magnet. I felt my flesh scraping the rusty edges of the roof of our house. And then I sunk through the ceiling and back onto my bed, back under Ray. But then he rose off me, stood next to the bed, as if in a trance, and there she appeared behind him. I watched as she grazed his arm. I watched as it began to tremble. She held a finger to her lips and circled him, studied him, ran her long thin fingers across his back and shoulders. She leaned toward his ear, whispered something that caused him to stumble again, and then she came around the front and leaned down to his stomach. She kissed his belly button with wrinkly lips that a moment later clasped on to him like a leech. I watched as his knees went weak. A draining look came over his face. I watched as he stumbled out the window, telling me he'd find me again. I got up slowly and closed it. Watched him as he stumbled into the darkness. When I turned back around, the old woman was gone. I wondered if she would chase after him in the black night. I wondered if she'd made him go away forever, if he'd be dead by morning. I hoped I would never see him again, but he kept finding me. Pequeña, I hear someone call my name, but I don't want to be Pequeña anymore. Pequeña. My eyes flutter open to the dimness of early morning light. I'm on the bus. Hulga is next to me, whispering my name. What's wrong? I ask him. They know by now, he says, looking out the window as if he can see our mothers there, desperate and heartbroken, angry and scared. They have each other, I whisper, and they are strong. They can take care of themselves. I swallow emotions threatening to overcome me as I think of Mommy, of her waking the baby in her arms, as she goes to the couch to wake me, as she stares in horror at the things I've left for her there. The gold earrings I've worn since I was a little girl, the long ponytail of hair I left for her to sail, and the note with the last words Pequeña will ever write, explaining that I'm gone. I will shed the girl I was, the girl who lived there, until I am someone new. Fulga sighs. Do you think? Don't, I say. We can't do this. We made the decision, and now we just have to keep going. They'd forgive us, Chico says, a hopeful look on his face when he sees Pulga second-guessing. We can still go. A conflicted look crosses Pulga's face. I shake my head. No, I say. We can't go back. Not ever. Pulga looks at me and nods. His dark brown eyes are scared, but trusting, and for a moment I remember us small, when we used to play together with Mommy and Tia Consuelo, had coffee and whispered and laughed together on the patio, and watched us chase lizards and iguanas in the middle of the day. Don't worry, I say. He gives me a weak smile, and we fall silent. There's nothing more to say, so I close my eyes as the bus rocks back and forth, dips and swerves. I close my eyes and open them again, never sure if I've fallen asleep. Over and over this happens as I picture us getting farther and farther away from Barrios, from Ray, from the pieces of me in my mother's arms, and on the couch that I leave behind, from the future that would have been if we didn't leave